An important point to note in terms of code switching and code mixing is that it's not always whimsical, but is used as a communicative strategy by speakers. So we see that code mixing and code switching has distinct communicative functions. One of the functions that one performs using a particular language or showing a preference to one particular language over others is quotations. When you are quoting somebody's words, you tend to use the language in which the words were actually uttered. And so you turn to that language even when the rest of the sentence was not in the same language as the quotation itself. So when you quote somebody's words, you tend to switch to the language which was used by the original speaker of those words. Similarly, we use code switching as addressee specification with the purpose of specifying the addressee. Suppose you are in the middle of a conversation when there are many people involved, and most of these people or many of these people are bilingual or multilingual. When you want to address a certain person, you tend to switch to the language which is closer to that particular addressee. We may have experienced this ourselves. For example, when you are when you are with people who speak different languages, suppose you are with your elders who speak Punjabi, and when you address one of those elders, you would tend to speak Punjabi rather than Urdu, although the rest of the conversation that you are having is in Urdu or English. So when you want to specify an addressee, you tend to switch to the language of that particular addressee. Similarly, people use lots of interjections when they speak, and these interjections are in the speaker's original language. An example is the use of G by Punjabi speakers. So when a Punjabi speaker is uttering a sentence or is having a conversation in English or Urdu, they will still continue using this particle G. Same is true for Malaysian English speakers, that they tend to use the interjection la a lot even when they're having a conversation in English. Similarly, switching is used as a reiteration tool. So when you want to reiterate a particular point, you want to clarify it, emphasize a particular point, make it look more important, strengthen a particular point, you tend to switch to a particular language or to the language which you think can serve your purpose better. So we see often that people, when they want to emphasize a point and are having a conversation, let's say in English, they would repeat a point in Urdu and then go back to English and then say the same thing in Urdu. So people tend to switch between languages to emphasize a particular point. Another function that switching can serve is making your speech more personalized or more objective. For example, we often talk about people using English in more formal settings, for example, in offices, etc., at other workplaces, whereas they turn to Urdu or Punjabi when they are in a more informal gathering. So when you want to be more personal, you tend to use a regional language, for example, Urdu or Punjabi. And when you want to maintain some distance with the speakers and do not want to show a lot of involvement, personal involvement, you tend to use English. Code switching can also be used as a textualization cue, which means that you're turning to a particular language can give a hint to the listener about how to interpret your message or how to interpret the following discourse. For example, if you are, let's say, speaking Urdu and you suddenly turn to English, your interlocutors will understand that probably it is something that you want to say with more seriousness, and you want to remove all the informality attached to what you're saying so that people pay more attention to it and take it more seriously. So, your code switching and code mixing can serve several communicative functions for the speakers.